On the 5th of August 2026, a Berlin fintech that most of the German startup press had written off in the 2022 downturn closed a 35 million euro Series C at a 1 billion, yes, with a B, euro valuation. Germany's newest unicorn, and it got there. This is the interesting part. With the public bet against the loudest consensus in enterprise AI right now, the Unicorn Atlas is back. This is episode number 2. This is Moss. Hello and welcome everybody. This is episode 768 or 768 of Startuprad.io, recorded solo by me, Jörn Menninger, Joe Manager from Frankfurt am Main. This is Unicorn Atlas episode number 2. Check our blog. We weekly post about a new unicorn there and on occasion make episodes like this one. Number 1. 2 weeks ago was Helsing. Keep in mind, in July, we were originally on a bi-weekly publication, but it turns out the bi-weekly publication is 2 episodes every other week. So sorry about that, but things happen. With Helsing, the $18 billion European defense AI bet today is the other end of the European unicorn spectrum, not a defense tech story. A fintech story, not $18 billion on optionality, 1 billion euros on genuinely differentiated thesis about how finance teams want to work with AI. If you've been listening to Startuprad.io for a while, you already know Moss. We interviewed founder Ante Spittler when Moss was still a spend management company competing hard in a crowded European card and expense category. Corporate cards, expense automation, 300,000 cards issued, over 5 billion euros in annualized payment volume, BaFin license, the usual European fintech stack. That interview is linked in the show notes, and I'd recommend it if you want the early chapters. Today's episode picks up where that conversation left off. At the moment, Moss stopped being a spend management company and started calling itself a finance AI company. And more importantly, at the moment, a specialist fintech investor was willing to lead a unicorn round to back that positioning. Over the next 20 minutes, I'm going to walk you through what the Series C actually is, who put in the money, and why lead investors matter, what Moss' contrarian bet is, and what the customer data behind it looks like, how Moss got here, and after the fintech-winter that nearly killed the category, and what an operator or investor should actually take away from this round. Let's go. The Series C in one paragraph. Here are the numbers from Moss' own announcement on August 5th, 2026. 35 million euros raised, 1 billion euro post-money valuation. Total funding across all rounds now approximately 200 million euros. Lead investor Portage, the fintech-specialist investment arm of Canadian asset manager Sagard. Existing investor participation, Cherry Ventures. We interviewed Philip, link in the show notes, on the cap table since the earlier rounds. Prior lead investors on the cap table include Tiger Global Management, who led the 2021 Series B, and Valar Ventures by Peter Thiel. Moss says it has grown revenue 20-fold since that 2021 Series B. It does not publish an absolute revenue number, so we cannot backsolve to a specific ARR figure. 20 times non-disclosed base is still non-disclosed number, But the direction, the multiple, and the customer count all line up. More than 5,000 European companies now run finance operations on Moss platform. Named customers include Flink, Schufa, Gusto, and Auto1. That is the round. Let me put that in context. 35 million euro Series C at a 1 billion euro valuation at the end of a 20-fold revenue run is a very specific shape. It is not a growth at all cost rounds. It is not the 2021 shape where you'd have seen a 200 million euro round at a 3 or 4 billion euro valuation. It is a capital efficient unicorn round. Moss reached the billion euro line at a much better capital efficiency ratio than the 2021 class of European fintechs, and it did it after a downturn reset that, and we'll come back to this. That's part of why this round is interesting, even before you get the AI thesis. Why Portage matters more than the size. Here's the piece I think most coverage will underweight. The identity of lead investor is a bigger signal than the size of the round. Portage is Sagard's fintech-specialist investment arm. Sagard is a Canadian asset manager. Portage's fintech portfolio is not generalist like growth equity money looking for the next big thing. It is people who spend all day looking at financial services businesses. Their prior investments include, for example, Wealthsimple in Canadian retail brokerage, Finn, the Munich vehicle subscription unicorn, also former guest, on this side of the Atlantic. This is the fund that gets called when a fintech business is a real fintech business with license, with unit economics that behave like financial services rather than like SaaS, and with a strategic thesis that specialists want to expose to. Portage leading a European fintech round in 2026 is a data point about which European fintech theses are still investable at a specialist level. Spend management as a standalone category at unicorn scale in 2026? Probably not. Finance AI on a specific control-first thesis backed by real customer survey data from an incumbent with a BaFin license and 5,000 paying SMEs? Yes. Sherry Ventures re-up matters too in a smaller way. Existing investors doubling down in a down cycle for the category is a stronger signal than a new investor entering. They know the numbers behind the numbers and they still like what they see. The names not in the round are also worth naming. Tiger Global led the 2021 Series B and did not lead this one. This is not a knock on Moss. Tiger Global's 2026 European strategy looks very different from its 2021 European strategy for reasons that have nothing to do with Moss, but it tells you this is a different kind of round, backed by a different kind of investor on a different kind of thesis. Part number 3. The bet, steerable AI, not autonomous agents. This is the part that matters more than the round, and the reason I think this episode is worth 20 minutes of your time, even if you don't care about spend management. The dominant AI narrative in enterprise software right now is autonomous agents. AI that does work end-to-end with minimal human intervention on a growing share of your workflow. That is the story every enterprise software company with a pulse is telling right now. Salesforce, Microsoft, ServiceNow, and every AI agent startup you've read about in the last 12 months. Moss is publicly betting against it, not against AI. Moss is very much building AI against the idea that finance teams want AI to be fully autonomous. Their argument is structural. In finance, an unsupervised error is never one-off. If an AI miscategorizes one expense, it will miscategorize every similar expense, thousands or tens of thousands of them across the accounting period. And it will do it silently until someone reviews the books at close or until an auditor spots it 3 months later. Automation without control does not scale efficiently. It scales mistakes. So Moss is building and marketing finance AI that leaves control with a finance team. The team shapes the AI rules. The team reviews and approves what counts. The AI does the manual work. The finance leader does the judgment work. Moss is framing in a good line Trust is good, control is better. Actually, something we say in German. Now, here is what makes this more than a marketing slogan. Moss backs the bet with its own customer data. Moss ran a survey of 471 of its customers across Germany, the UK, and the Netherlands. They asked those finance teams to rank 5 AI promises in order of importance when fully autonomous was one of the 5 options. 65% ranked it last. Only 6% ranked it first. When they asked what single criterion mattered most, 48% named control over the system. And the ordering was identical across all 3 markets. That is actually a real data point. It's not proof that the autonomous agent thesis is wrong. It is proof that in the specific segment Moss sells to, European finance team and mid-market SMEs, roughly 10 to 1,000 employees, the buying signal on AI is control, not autonomy, and Moss has built a company around that signal. Now, the honest counter question. Is it durable differentiation, or is it just a short-term positioning play? Here is a stronger version of the bull case. If Moss is right about finance team preferences, then the segment of the AI market they sell into rewards the vendor who compounds control features over time. Think audit trace, review flows, guardrails, human-in-the-loop workflows, permission system, explainability. Those are hard to build. They are unfashionable relative to autonomous agent demos, and they are exactly what enterprise finance buyers actually check on procurement. The honest counter is that if the autonomous agent camp is right and finance team's preferences change over the next, say, 3 to 5 years as they see peers succeed with more autonomous setups, Moss positioning becomes a liability, not a moat. That is the option the bear case is holding. What's my read? Moss contrarian bet is the right one for the next 24 months on the strength of their own survey data. Beyond that, it will depend on whether the autonomous agent camp actually delivers wins in finance, not in customer support, not in coding, not in general knowledge work, but specifically in accounting and close operations. That is where the evidence has to show up, and it hasn't yet. If your firm is building enterprise AI for finance, sales, operations teams, and wants to reach the European operators and investors who make the buying calls, become a Startuprad.io partner. Number 4. The scale-up path to 1 billion. Moss was founded in 2019. Co-founder and CEO Ante Spittler is a former investment banker and VC. When we interviewed him, he described building Moss out of the finance chaos of a prior marketplace startup he had worked with, where the finance team was drowning in expense report and vendor invoices. Classic founder pattern. Build the tools you wish you'd had. The company raced through the 2021 boom, Tiger Global at the Series B with Valar Ventures and Cherry Ventures. That pushed Moss in the middle of the 2021 European fintech class, the one that raised at aggressive valuations, hired aggressively, expanded aggressively. And then the 2022 to 2023 fintech-winter hit. Moss did layoffs. Spittler was publicly called that period in a Startuprad.io interview horrible. That is not the language of a founder spinning downturn. This is the language of a founder who really lived it. Here is what makes the arc worth calling out. Moss reached the €1 billion line with a 35 million euro round in a 20-fold revenue base. That is more capital efficient path to unicorn than most of the 2021 class ever managed. The company came out of the reset with a tighter cost structure, a clearer product thesis, and a better relationship with its buyers. That is the pattern successful post-winter fintech share. For the operator listening, the reset story matters because it tells you something about how Moss will handle the next stretch. Companies that came through the fintech winter and rebuilt from a smaller, more disciplined pace tend to build differently in the next upcycle than companies that really never had to make hard cost decisions. Most product roadmap post-reset is control first, specs driven, auditable. That is a company that has learned to build for buyers, not for demos. Number 5, our Unicorn Atlas verdict. Let me compress this into a verdict. Moz is a real unicorn. Real customers, over 5,000 of them. Real revenue growth, 20-fold since 2021, on a public track record. Real product, corporate cards plus a finance suite plus a finance AI layer. Real regulatory footing, a BaFin license, active in Germany, the UK, the Netherlands, and additional EU markets. Real capital efficiency, a 35 million euro Series C at a 1 billion euro valuation is much healthier round shape than the 2021 European fintech class. Moz is also a company priced on a specific contrarian thesis about how finance teams want to work with AI. The thesis has real customer survey data behind it. It has attracted a specialist fintech investor as lead, which is the strongest available validation of a fintech thesis in 2026. And it lines Moz up against the loudest AI narrative in enterprise software, autonomous agents, with a clearly named alternative. The question the next 18 months will settle is whether Moz finance AI positioning holds as more of the market ships autonomous agent features. If Moz's survey data reflects a durable buyer preference, this is a compounding advantage. If it reflects a transitional preference that changes as autonomous agents actually start working, Moz's differentiation erodes. For the operator, the finance leader listening to this, the buying signal here is control. Moz's survey says finance teams rank fully autonomous last. Evaluate finance AI on how much oversight it preserves, not how much it removes. That is the message from your peers. For the investors, Moz reached $1 billion on 20-fold revenue growth, and it improved capital efficiency after a downturn reset. That is a different profile from 2021's growth at all costs unicorns. If your fund is underwriting European fintech scale-ups in 2026, the Moz shape is closer to what will keep working than the 2021 shape. For the ecosystem, Moz as a data point on European scale-up capital, finding a way to reach unicorn valuation through capital-efficient parts on differentiated thesis with specialist investor leads. That is the pattern that has become normal for Europe to close its scale-up gap, as we covered in Germany's scale-up strategy, our episode 766, rather than relying on 2021 style mega rounds funded by generalist growth capital. Moz is one company, but the shape of this round is the shape of the funding path European scale-ups need. Startup Radio is where European founders, VC, and corporate strategies show up when they want to understand what a different European scale-up thesis actually looks like in market. Partner with us to reach that audience with a firm story. That is Unicorn Atlas, episode number 2, Moz, Berlin, Germany's newest unicorn. If you found this helpful, please rate and review Startuprad.io wherever you're listening or watching this. The companion blog post with all the data tables, the funding history, the founder interview link, and the full source list is, of course, on our blog at startuprad.io/blog. You can also read the underlying Unicorn Atlas edition on Moz, of course, on our platform, which we keep continuously updated as the story develops. If you missed Unicorn Atlas entry number 1, Helsing at $80 billion. The link is in the show notes. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you find your audio. And I will see you with the next one. This has been Joe Manager.